Pulse News. Zach Cooper in the studio with you. Logan Carmichael with the billboard. 702-9111 is the number if you want to give us a call. This week's Pulse, we featured an extended interview with Mayor Ron Littlefield. Gary Poole, our news editor, conducted that interview. And joining me here in the studio is Mayor Ron Littlefield. Thanks for joining us in the studio.
Well, good afternoon, Zach. It's good to be with you.
We thought we'd bring you in the studio and follow up with some more questions and see what you got to say about some of these issues that we've been talking about. Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of issues, obviously, coming up in the city, and the city council and yourself and your administration has been very busy of late. One thing I wanted to start off with was a question about the Chattanooga Housing Authority and the proposed project in the North Chattanooga area. Well, and we had a meeting Monday night, and I wanted to ask, in a letter that you sent to them, the quote was, "The Fairmont Avenue project is a throwback to the failed HUD policies of concentrating low-income residents in an isolated, confined area without access to vital services."
Yeah.
Is that where your argument lies?
Absolutely. And the fact that there was very little public interaction or input on that project. And HUD has learned from projects like Cabrini Green and some of those that very infamously had to be destroyed just a few years ago because they really didn't work. They built these very concentrated areas of public housing, and they turned into combat zones. And this was smaller, given it wasn't a large sweeping project like you found in Chicago or St. Louis or some of those areas that became famous for that kind of development. But it did reflect the same kind of ideas of just confining people. I mean, it was a textbook example. You went down this little narrow road to a dead end, and there they wanted to double the density and basically have a unit, a development there that looked like, forgive me, architect, who might be listening out there, like an old Holiday Inn that had been dropped in the middle of a sea of asphalt. It really just was not humanizing in any way.
Are you willing to work with the Housing Authority for a more suitable area to build this project?
Absolutely. We need the units. We definitely need more public housing, but this one, in my opinion, was just ill-advised. And the thing that was most upsetting to me was it just kind of popped up, and they claimed, well, we did a review, we had a public input session back in 2004. Well, that was 5 years ago, and it wasn't about this specific project. It was just about having a higher density of public housing in that area, and I don't think anyone really objects to that. But this project just really did not have the characteristics of the kinds of projects that we are trying to move toward today, which are more like the Hope 6 project down in Alton Park, where we tore an old project, an old housing project down and built back a neighborhood. That's what we need in that area of North Chattanooga, a neighborhood, not a housing project.
We are going to take your calls here for some questions, 702-9111. We'll go ahead and take Robert from downtown. Robert, go ahead. And thanks for your call, Robert. Let me just dovetail with that as one of the questions. In the article in the Pulse, that the interview that Gary Poole conducted with you, you pointed out that a metro government would put Chattanooga within the top 100 rankings.
Right.
What advantages would that outcome mean, in your opinion, for the city of Chattanooga?
Well, whenever companies or investors or whatever look at cities, they tend to focus on the top 100. And I can remember when Chattanooga was in the top 100 years ago, and then other cities outgrew us. And that, merging the city and county governments into one population, was move us from 139th to about 60th, well up on the chart, well within the top 100. And that's really worth more than bragging rights. It enables us to tap into federal programs and all a little more generously to aid our whole community and not just focusing on certain parts of our community.
Do you think that some of the opposition to the metro government, or I should say the annexation idea, could have been alleviated had we talked about metro before, or did you feel like you had to go to the annexation first before we could even get to the conversation?
Annexation was the only legal avenue for the city to grow. We're a growing city in population now, and that's new. We haven't been growing for decades, and finally we are actually growing at the same rate as Nashville. We're the fastest growing large city comparable with Nashville in the state of Tennessee. And so the only way to expand the urban footprint, to take in those areas that are benefiting most from the development of the city, is annexation. And we had an agreement that we all signed on to beginning about a decade ago, and actually signing the agreement May 23rd of 2001. And so I was following the agreement. Now Metro, if there's going to be all this resistance to Metro, and to annexation, and that did not surprise me greatly, frankly, because I've been around a long time, it's time to talk about Metro again. We last discussed that in 1984. It's been 25 years, I think, that it's the other alternative, and there is a legal channel to do that. It's a little more complex. It'll take time to get there, and it gives everybody an opportunity to vote, which seems to be what people want.
We've done some polling on our website, ChattanoogaPost.com, and there's been some other polls out. And we addressed this in the interview with you in the Pulse News Weekly this week, but there was, in these polls, it seems as though people are a little more amenable to Metro government than what people may think.
Right, yeah, and I think annexation showed them what the other alternative is. We are going to have some legal challenges, so this issue is not going away, legal challenges on annexation. And so this is going to be an issue, that and also the discussion of tax equity, which members of the City Council and County Commission and others will be sitting down all next year working out a new tax sharing agreement, because the one that we fashioned back in the 1960s when Ralph Kelly was mayor and Chester Frost was the county judge, or county mayor as we call him now, is way outdated, and so by law, by agreement, we have to redraw that before May 23rd of 2011. So that and merging the utilities. Again, annexation has helped to emphasize the fact that we have to have good water and sewer utilities. And of course, the Power Board is a good example, because they are one of the leading utilities in the country with all that's happening, and they are achieving with the fiber to the home program and the smart grid program that they're building out right now. So this is going to be very much a topic of conversation all next year, which happens to be when the County Commission and others will be running for office.
Let me ask you on the on water quality fees. The water quality fees are set to rise dramatically. Businesses are worried that the increased fees will threaten their fragile profits or even their existence. That has been brought up. What is the position of the administration on this fee increase, and have you changed or modified the initial plan of the increase of these fees after the feedback?
We haven't really modified it. I think what we really need to do is a better job of communicating exactly what's going on here. First of all, this is not unique to Chattanooga. It's happening to communities, to urban communities, and even to rural communities. The county has a stormwater fee. It's $186 an acre. It's just different from ours. And that's because there are two tiers of this program at the federal level. Chattanooga is in the more aggressive area because we are a community above 100,000. So any city over 100,000 is experiencing the same thing that we are. I'm going to be going to Washington the 1st of December to a national gathering of mayors to talk with EPA officials about this issue. And the other side of it is credits, is qualifying businesses and churches and whatever for credits by installing features that contain and control the water quality on site. And we'll be talking to people individually and in groups about how to do that. And that'll bring their costs down dramatically.